Welcome to resilient.com, and today delighted to have joining me Walter Handloser, or Handloser as he says for people that can't pronounce it, a good originally Germanic name. And Walter is quite a beast. 100 times 100. I guess that's the first thing that strikes you. This man has run 100 milers in his fairly young life. And what are you now, 43, Walter?
I am indeed 43.
Yeah,
Yes.
43, 100. So he became, I think, only the 35th person in the world or something
Mhm.
like that to hit that amazing number, which for those of us that have tried or done hundreds understand how difficult that is. But I think what is even more incredible about Walter is that he also went out to establish a world record, which is how many 100-mile races he could run in 1 year and
Hmm.
came up with an incredible number of 50. So I actually got the number 50 done. And then some other guy in Europe, I think in Austria, decided no, he had to outdo him or had the previous record and came back and did 52 in a year. Is that correct, Walter?
Well, only that he's not from Austria. He's from California.
He's from California.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. His name's Ed Eddinghausen, which is a fantastic name that could very easily come from Austria.
Exactly.
Um, and no, he like me is a California man, or at
Uh-huh.
least originally California.
Okay.
And he's also known as the Jester. Most people know him as the Jester because he runs in a jester costume.
Oh, wow.
He told me that he runs that way because he never wants to be in any danger of taking himself seriously. And I can really appreciate that as someone who's taken far too many things far too seriously for
Uh-huh.
far too long. I
Uh-huh.
can I can sympathize with that need. Maybe I should start wearing that same costume. But yeah, no, he had it before, so
Yeah.
he set his record of 41
Hmm.
um, in let's see, it was 2014.
Right.
And then, so I had it for a time. And then I took it in 2019 with 50. And then this year he took it back, or I should say, it was actually starting last year and just into the barely into the beginning of this year. So it was pretty much like he had it for 5 years. I had it for 5 years. Now he's taking
Wow.
it back. Maybe in 5 years I'll come and, have something to say about it, but probably
As the
not.
as the jester would say, this is no joke, Walter. You guys are going back and forth here. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I think the first thing that comes to mind for me as an ultra runner myself is like, just putting together 100-mile race effort is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And especially if you're new to the sport, it's almost mind-boggling how much preparation there is. Not just the running side, but the logistics. Now, I mean, how on earth do you live a life and run that many 100-mile races, I'm assuming all over the country,
Hmm.
still have a job? I mean, tell us more about, I mean, I'm curious. I mean, I think I know part of the reason why you're doing this, and it's been alluded to in other interviews with you, why you started in the history, and that's not what we're really digging into today. It's more about like, how do you do this? So, when you decided you want to break this record, how do you figure out where you're running and how you're running, and like, what are the challenges of the logistics of putting that record-breaking effort, together?
Well, so the thing that I would first and foremost say about myself was that the logistics were the most interesting part in a way.
Hmm.
I'm kind of I'm a data nerd by my nature.
Hmm.
Anything that I approach, I'm going to make a spreadsheet about. I'm going to break it down on every axis that I can. I'm going to examine it from every angle that I possibly can examine it from. So
Right.
when I was setting out to plan and even my reason, like even the psychology behind taking it on in the first place had something to do with numbers. That is to say, when I heard that the record was 41, my first response was, why 41?
Yeah.
What kind of a like who sits down and goes, okay, I'm going to do 4100s.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
not a number you just pick out of a hat, right?
Uh-huh.
So what happened there? My first thought was there's got to be a story.
Uh-huh.
When I did talk to Ed about it finally, because when I decided I wanted to break that record, I wanted to talk to Ed because I had already met him. You know,
Right.
we were both active in the California running scene, so I said, what was it? Why was it 41? And the answer was that So if you kind of look back into the history, the very first person who set the record set it with like 12.
Uh-huh.
And that was a time when there probably were about maybe 20 total to do
Yeah.
out there. And so putting together 12 was the majority of the
Right.
field, right? And
Right.
then it went to 24 and then to 25 and then to 36 and then to 41 and then to but and with each one there was more of a field to draw from, but the field was growing so fast that it kind of de-optimized the record as it went,
Right.
right? You could, by the time Ed set out to do 41, there were like 150 races out there that he could choose from. And
Right.
so he could not get quite every weekend, but most weekends of the year, there was something he could have done to
Right.
get to get some finish in. So, uh, so the answer to when I asked Ed to why 41 was it was just what I did that year because Ed is not really, it's not that he's not a planner, it's just that for him, I think the performance is the thing. Like he's going to go out there and he's going to run an amazing race. Like I want to emphasize that Ed is a truly amazing ultra marathoner. His PR at 100 miles is in the 14-hour range. Like he is
Wow.
an
Wow.
amazing
Yeah.
ultra marathoner. He really shines at things like 6-day races where he has probably more wins than I think anyone alive. Um, he's but for him, that's the fun part, like the going out there and the doing it. And it's not to say it isn't also the fun part for me, but for me, there's a whole other aspect, which is the planning. I love the planning. So when I decided that I wanted to do 50, which is a relatively optimized record, right?
Right.
That pushes you to pretty much do one per weekend per year.
Right.
Especially because there are weekends where no races occur,
Right.
like Christmas weekend, very difficult to find one.
Right.
Mother's Day weekend, interestingly enough, nearly impossible to find
Jeez.
one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so
Wow.
despite there now being well over 200, in fact, I think we're getting on towards 300, 200 plus mile races in the US alone, there still are little deserts
Yeah.
that require that you be creative, or maybe you travel internationally, or you do something else. So part of the planning for me was in the times when I had a wealth of choices. Let's say there was a week that had 8, 9 possibilities for me. Um, well, now you start to be into optimization, like, okay, well, can I travel the least possible distance in
Yeah.
order to do 5 races in a row? Can I group them geographically?
Uh-huh.
And
Oh,
that to me is so fascinating. I love, like, this is the classic mathematical problem, the traveling salesman, right?
yeah.
Where you're trying to optimize your route while still so I'll still
Wow.
get every stop in that you need. It's so fun. So I spent about 8 months of my life with a part-time job of spreadsheeting this thing out.
Yeah.
And it was just so amazingly fun. It got to the point where it was kind of my identity, such that I didn't, especially as December rolled around and January, where I started the effort, got closer and closer. Like it was, I don't even know what to do with myself anymore. The planning's now done. The registrations are all done. Now there was like a 3-week period when you know,
Yeah. Now you got to get ready to run. Actually,
yeah,
like
right.
the road. Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually, funnily enough, I went into the year very undertrained. Uh, very
I'm not
undertrained.
surprised to be spending all that time preparing. Jeez.
Yeah. So I sort of winged the first couple of them.
Wow.
Um, and I was very lucky to get done with the spine, which was my third one and one of the most difficult ones.
Hmm.
I finished that on pure luck.
Is that in
I know,
England?
yeah,
Yeah.
I know because I've DNF'd it once since then in much better condition. So I got very lucky at the spine. And then I had my first DNF, or it was a DNS actually,
Mhm.
in February, and I was like, well, that's not a good sign,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
Uh, at this rate, one every 2 months, and it's not that I won't have the record, but man,
Yeah.
I won't get anywhere near my goal because my goal had been to plan for 54 and do 50.
Wow.
I gave myself four points of leeway. Um,
And so you had nothing, all you had was like a van, right? You were traveling in like
Hmm.
a camper van and from race to race and no
Hmm.
no home to take care of or lawn to mow or kids to feed or any of that stuff,
Well,
right?
I had been in that position for quite some time
Yeah.
already. So I had
Yeah.
I'm not a person to sort of go half measures on things.
Right.
So I had
Clearly. Yeah.
yeah, right. Who'd have guessed?
Who would have guessed? Yeah.
Um, so I had I had been starting out running marathons, right?
Oh,
And I was running a marathon every month,
right.
probably, and then a little bit more than once every month, and then I was doing ultras, more than once every month, and I started to think like, I'm living in California in a very expensive place. I
Right.
have a job that can be remote if I need it to be.
Hmm.
I'm paying a ridiculous amount of rent for a studio apartment next to my job.
Hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
What's that about? I'm traveling every weekend. I'm spending a ridiculous amount on hotels.
Yeah.
Why don't I get myself at least something that I can, reduce my hotel costs, right? I need to get a new car anyway.
Right.
My old beat up Civic was dying, and so I decided, okay, well, I'll get myself something I can live in, right?
Yeah.
I can have my weekends in, and
Mhm.
so I bought myself a Sprinter.
Okay.
And once bought the Sprinter and started kitting it out, I was like, I could really live in this thing full time. There's no reason for me to pay rent. I'll just pay off,
Yeah.
I'll move out of my apartment. That'll
Yeah.
free up, well, at that point it was 1,300 a month that I was paying.
Uh-huh.
That'll free up 1,300 a month, and I just use that to pay down my van, and I will be living the life. And so I
Wow.
told my landlords, hey, I'm heading out to pursue a dream of
Hmm.
just traveling around and running all the time. And but this was actually well before
Hmm.
I even had the idea to break the record. This was in 2017. Um, and yeah, I ended up living in that van for almost 3 years. So,
So once you were doing that, I mean, share with us, like, let's say a week to week. Let's say you, for example, you had a race every weekend. I mean, how would that look for you? Did you find that geographical sweet spot where you were doing 5 races in one area, or did you find yourself on the road all the time, like just driving and racing and driving and racing? How did that turn out?
no, let me tell you, there is a geographical sweet spot 2 times a year for that, and it is
Uh-huh.
Atlanta.
Uh-huh.
One wouldn't think about it, but
Yeah.
Atlanta, Georgia is
Uh-huh.
one of the best places to park yourself if you're going to try and get a lot of races in.
Wow.
It has access to the entire South,
Uh-huh.
usually within very easy drive. There were times when I would just go to Atlanta for large periods of time. I
Hmm.
would park my van somewhere just outside of
Hmm.
the worst parts of Midtown, and
Yeah.
I'd run in to work every morning because our company had an office in Atlanta,
Uh-huh.
so that worked out really well. So I
Sure.
go to Midtown,
Uh-huh.
um, and I would just work, go back to my van every night. I joined a gym, so I'd have a place to shower. Um, our
What
building
was
had
your run? What was your run distance to work? Like how much were you running?
it was about 2 miles. It wasn't
Oh,
so bad. No, I
still.
mean, you can park in a very nice area of
Uh-huh.
Midtown and still be very close
Uh-huh.
to Midtown proper. It's that it's not until you get down to downtown that things get kind of sketch.
So why
Um,
does Atlanta have why there's so many races down there?
okay, well, it's a couple of reasons. One, it's because racing in the South is very seasonal.
Okay.
Um, you tend to find them all clustered around spring and fall.
Hmm.
Um, that's one reason. Two, Atlanta is, if you kind of look at the South, everything kind of comes together in North Georgia. North Georgia has really easy access to uh, pretty much the entire deep south and a good distance up the eastern seaboard, because it's just so far northwest into Georgia. It really is a hub.
Hmm.
So um, so yeah, basically spring and fall I
Hmm.
was there
Got it.
for racing. And you could get to like, Pinhoti, 2 hour drive away, uh, Cruel Jewel,
Hmm.
1 to 1.5 hour drive away, depending on what you were dealing with traffic wise. The Carolinas, couple hours away, South Georgia,
Hmm.
couple hours away, depending. Um, Florida, not too much further. It just was like it was so convenient. And so, yeah, I spent a lot of time in Atlanta that year. Other than that, I spent my summer in Colorado because that was when I had discovered I just at that point discovered the little town of Ouray, which I had fallen in love with and wanted to be as close to as I could be. So I scheduled myself to run Ouray, and I scheduled myself for every Colorado race and Utah race that I could during that time. So I just had an excuse to go to Colorado and hang out. Um,
And that's
not a
where you're
big,
based now, right? You're in Uray. No,
yeah, I'm in Ouray.
man, you're now in a town. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm now a homeowner. I'm
Yeah.
sitting in my house
There we
that I
go.
I got domesticated somewhere along the way.
Great. Yeah.
No, I met Jackie in while running while in the South. So I was in the South. I was
Uh-huh.
based out of Atlanta at that time, and I had traveled up to North Carolina to
Hmm.
run Umstead
Okay.
that weekend, and she had traveled down from Maryland to run Umstead as her second hundred.
Wow.
And yeah, we met there in the middle of a 100-mile race. So yeah, over the course of the year, I wound up being domesticated, and which was
Entertainment.
great well, not only just because it's great because I love Jackie, but like it was great because COVID hit shortly afterwards, and let me tell you, it was not an easy life for a van person in COVID. So
So
yeah.
that's amazing. So there you are running around, driving
Mhm.
around, getting all this stuff done. Was your goal in doing all this 50 times 100 in a year? Was there any mindset about pace, or was it just about officially finishing the race within the cutoff time? What was your philosophy on that?
Um, I don't. What's the best way to put this? I don't have. Um, uh, I'm not that I don't have, but I'm just not very good at gears. Um, some people very much have a set way
Hmm.
to push themselves at, five different levels, or, they're going to perform this, this, and this. For me, as the race goes on, it would always turn into a race. Even if I didn't start it that way,
Hmm.
by the end, I'm running at the edge of my abilities because that's just how I am. I mean, and this sounds bad, but also by the end of a lot of these races, I just want them to be over. Uh, there's this weird thing that happens when you're running that often in that many places, and that you'll get to the start line, and first you'll be like, "Oh my God, I'm here again. Oh, I'm gonna be running for like 36 hours. Oh no." Oh my God. And then you'd get to about 50 miles in and you'd be like, I'm halfway there.
Yeah.
And suddenly everything would start to brighten up. But then here was the best part. You'd have some moment, and then it would be in the middle of the night. You'd be, you've been running for like 14, 15 hours. It's now dark. You're running through some forest somewhere. And I would just stop and I'd say to myself, where am I? Like, what state am I in?
Uh-huh. Wow.
And it was a literal, like, I'm not, this is not a joking. This was I would literally forget where I was.
Wow.
All I knew is I just had to keep going forward because that's what you do.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you've run that much for that long, and, you start to, all of the races start to blend in together. So I have times that, like, I have certain very clear memories of places that
Hmm.
if they don't have context, I can't remember what race they're from.
Yeah.
There's a
Wow.
finish line picture that I have of myself and Jackie together
Right.
from some point in the year. I don't know where it's from. I don't know where we were. I
Mhm.
don't know what state I was in. I don't remember that finish. I don't and I had to do research to find out that that was actually Canal Corridor. That was the finish line of Canal Corridor. But the only way to find that out was to look at the metadata from the photograph and
Mhm.
find out that I was in Ohio when it happened, and then cross-reference that to the time of year, and that was how I knew it was Canal Corridor. I don't remember that at
I'm
all.
not
So
surprised. That's a lot of races. So that was a question I was going to ask, which you kind of answered is like, did you have days of like, oh my God, I got to line up again for yet another one this week?
absolutely,
How
yeah.
deep, how deep were you having a dig? And was there a certain point, like midway through the 50, that it got worse, or was it easier? Was there any point that was harder than, another time of the year to get
Yeah.
the number?
No, it's a good question because the roller coaster was mappable.
Hmm.
For example, at the beginning, I was sort of having fun with it, and everything felt very new.
Uh-huh.
And then as the year went on, I started like all of this started to have a training effect, which was interesting. And I started to PR races. Like I got my a new Trail 100 PR
Hmm.
around April. I ran Umstead, which is not the easiest race. I ran it in 19 hours. And for me, I think my previous PR had been something like 21. So,
Yeah.
I was starting to get some fast times in there as the training effect kicked in. And that time at that point I was having a lot of fun with it. It
Hmm.
was still exciting and new. And then as my body just started to wear down, and I started to get like there is definitely a gastrointestinal effect of running that serially. I did develop ulcers over the course of the year, which sucked. Would not recommend. But as your body starts to break down from this thing, and you start to think you've experienced every single race that there is,
Hmm.
yeah, the beginnings of races became very tough. And it was always the beginnings. It was always the worst part was getting up in the morning
Hmm.
or even the day before when I had to drive out to the location.
Hmm.
I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go out there and I'm stoked to like see people at packet pickup because I'm always stoked. Like the people are what make
Yeah.
the races to me. But then I'd get up in the morning and there was nothing to do but like put on your clothes and whatever pack you were gonna use, and then and you'd see all these people super stoked to be out there and really excited and deal. Everyone's dealing with their jitters in a different way, but all I was thinking was just like, oh God, here I am again. And I make it sound bad. I make it sound like I was miserable, and in actuality, what it was just like I didn't like nothing had kicked in yet, right? I had a goal. I was during those darkest moments, all I was looking at it as was as another obstacle to overcome.
Hmm.
Um, and none of the like
Hmm.
there was none of the kind of novelty joy that comes with it.
Hmm.
But luckily, every race cures that in its own way, right? I went out there and I did love it in Arkansas, and like, if anything's gonna cure you
Hmm.
of the doldrums, it's that beautiful forest that you run through out there, and it's hard to stay in a bad mood when you're looking at waterfalls and running through green trees and lush forests and in beautiful trails and in places you've never seen before. So luckily, the sport itself revived me as the race went on, but my goodness, those first hours were dark,
So what
of
was
anyone's.
I mean, everybody has like a different mindset about how to approach a race in terms of pumping themselves up. Did you have any specific routine or mantra you followed or anything that would help get you to that start line in the wee hours of the morning when you were feeling just exhausted? Was there
No.
no?
Uh, no, I mean, I'm exactly the opposite.
Hmm.
I'm not a mantra person.
Hmm.
I'm a remove it from my thought and the body will take over.
Hmm.
If you back off, if you stop thinking about the things that you don't want to be dealing with right now,
Hmm.
um, this is what you trained for.
Hmm.
And if you just let your body deal with it, your body will deal with it.
Hmm.
Um, you know, this is why you spent hundreds of hours, and this is why you spent thousands of dollars, and this is why you did all these various things, and this is why you've been traveling the country in a van for the last, several months. And there's nothing that your body can't do here. So
Right,
how about you just shut your mind off? Because it's the little pissant right now.
right.
Shut your mind off and let your body just do what it can do. So yeah, I'm not a mantra person because a mantra indicates that I'm already overthinking it. Like my
Mhm.
brain doesn't want to be here. So you know what? It doesn't have to be. It
Yeah.
can be elsewhere. Let it go and just start running.
Okay,
Um,
so that sounds great in theory, but the human body, the amount of hundreds you were running, at what point? I mean, you mentioned the ulcers. what else starts to break down? What did you find with your body happening?
Oh yeah, all sorts of stuff. Got stress fractures in my feet.
Yeah.
I continually aggravated a torn meniscus that I already had from a couple of years before that. That led to one of my DNFs. Let's see what else. Um, yeah, the feet were really the worst part, I would say,
Mhm.
because with that much mileage, little problems magnify. If you're wearing you decide to go out in a different pair of shoes that week, just to mix stuff up a little bit,
Mhm.
and you may completely screw yourself over. Luckily you have a whole week to recover.
Mhm.
Luckily, I was in my 30s at the time, so I could recover in a week. But you know, you had to be careful about little choices like that because
Mhm.
as the year goes on, I was just increasingly fragile.
Yeah.
Um, it was one route that took me down at a race in November,
Mhm.
right? One route, and I could feel that my knee just was not going to cooperate for the rest of that race. And so I walked it in and, got a ride back to the start line and said, look, this is not safe. I'm just going to go. And, I knew the repercussions at that point, that being at that point my um, fourth, it was my fourth. Yeah. It was my, it was my fourth DNF or DNS of the year. I had made it to November only having one, but I knew that reduced my margin of error to zero from that point on, right? I now have to go the remaining 2 months
Mhm.
and another, I think it was like six races. I was like at
Mhm.
44 at that point, so 6 races without failing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
Further, it meant I had to do a double on the last weekend. So I had to run 200 miles before December 31st ended at across the years. So like I knew what I was getting myself into,
Mhm.
but I had to make that intelligent decision at the time that like, look, no, my body will not take,
Mhm.
uh, will not grace, certainly not, will not gracefully take me trying to tough out the rest of this race on this knee. So
So do you think, I mean, it's an amazing achievement what you've done. And I have people that even ask me, like, you guys that do these hundreds, you're crazy. Like, don't you realize what it's doing to your body and the damage and this and that? What do you tell people that say that to you? You're a nut job. Why are you doing this to your body? You're gonna, feel it all in 10 years' time.
good. I mean, good. Like I don't know. I'm, I don't. Okay, so I might have a little bit of a morbid perspective on this, and I apologize if this is a little off the wall, but my family does not live long.
Uh-huh.
Very few of my family make it out of their 60s. Just we're a short-lived. We're here for a good time, not a long time. Um,
That's
and I'm going to make that time as good as I can get it. And you know what? Every choice we make, every choice has trade-offs.
Mhm.
You want to live maximally safe, you're going to also live maximally boring. And I'm not here for that. I really am not. Like, that's not the kind of life I want to live. Um, so yeah, yes, we've chosen a sport that has medically published and verified risks and long-term health costs. And I acknowledge that, and I'm fine with that.
Mhm.
I have made peace with that because
Mhm.
I love it so much. I enjoy what I do, and if that leads me to, um, having more knee issues or having other kinds of
Mhm.
medical problems, I mean, that's something I'm willing to live with. Now, the flip side of that is that I am also far healthier than almost anyone else in my family. So, whatever I am doing, it's certainly better than just sitting around. Um,
Sure. No, that's a
you
good
know,
answer. And so you've done this incredible feat.
Hmm.
and somebody else has come back and reclaimed the record. What's next for you, Walter? Like, are you just, I mean, I saw you're at your 800 and so on, and you keep doing the races, but is there any new goal for you, or how do you keep motivating after, breaking the record? Are you looking to come back for another record? Are you done with that, or what's
I'm so
keeping
glad you
you?
asked. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for like the last about year now, I've been doing more logistics because I'm going to attempt to break the record for the most 200-mile races run in a single year. So that is my next goal,
Wow, that's
and
big
that's
news. News flash.
yeah.
Wow,
Well, so that
200.
starts in 2026. That will
Geez.
be um, so yeah. The record is currently 13.
Okay.
Um, and I have somewhere between 20 and 25 on the calendar right now. It will depend on how certain races shake out, and uh, whether I can kind of balance things. The world of 200 is not nearly as developed and
Oh yeah, sure.
full-bodied, I guess you might say, as 100s. I mentioned there's something like 250 to 300 milers in the US, or alternatively races in which you could get at least to 100 miles, like a 24-hour, for example. There's only about 55 200
Okay.
milers in the US, which is a lot more than people tend to think there are.
Okay.
In general, when people think of the 200s, they tend to think, oh, there's like the Triple Crown of 200s, and there's like Cocodona, and like that's it, right? But no, there's about 55 races of 200 miles or greater in the US. So you can do a lot, but as one can imagine, you can't make a full year out of it like you can with hundreds.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to settle for, with big air quotes, settle for one every 2 weeks, roughly, for
Well,
the
that's
year.
that's an amazing endeavor. And I'm curious, what would you say to you're obviously now an incredibly seasoned pro at ultra running. What would you say to somebody that wants to get into ultra running? It seems to be a massively booming, growing sport. Like the amount of races going on, the amount of entries, it seems to be exploding
Yeah.
sport in this country. So what advice would you give to a newbie that's looking to come on and run, ultra distance, and I should say 100-mile plus distances? What advice would you give a newcomer?
Just do it. I mean, there's 'cause I used to get that question a lot when I was traveling around and doing all the hundreds. And oh, what would you say to someone who wants to start this? And
Mhm.
like, I really do feel that ultra running is something that comes very naturally to humans.
Mhm.
I think even if we're going to call it ultra walking,
Mhm.
as many people have argued for, it's
Mhm.
still something that we are good at as a species. We are well suited. We are very efficient at long distance motion. And I think that people think it's something for the elites or something for very
Mhm.
serious, dedicated, in
Mhm.
shape people who take things very seriously. And anyone who's been to a 100-mile race knows what a joke that is. We take ourselves less seriously than about any other sport I've ever found, and it's because we kind of know the deep dark secret, which is that ultra running is for the people. Ultra running is just for we are the Isle of Misfit Toys. We're a bunch of weirdos and addicts and, people who are with trauma or neurodivergent folk, or, we're just a bunch of normies and weirdos just getting together and, running hundreds of miles in circles or running across country. And I really do genuinely feel that anyone who wants to get into it should just go and start. Start walking, start adding to your mileage in your training schedule. Get to the point where you're comfortable with some stuff, and then sign up for something to give yourself a goal to aim at. Sign up for your first 50 miler or your first 100K.
Right.
Or even if if you haven't done it yet, your first 50K, right? Just start this process. There's no milestone you need to meet before you begin. Um,
I
you
love it.
know,
Yeah. No, that's solid advice. Yeah, I mean it's exciting to hear that you're coming back with a new attempt, and we're definitely going to be, wanting to stay in touch with you, Walter, because I think that's
oh, absolutely.
it's an amazing goal you have, and hopefully we'll get out and catch you at some of the races. And I'm just fascinated by your willpower and to get through what you did is it's a very unique achievement. And whether
Well,
some
thank you.
people call it crazy or not, I think it's darn impressive because anybody who's done a 100 miler or more knows there's some, deep digging at times, but to do it that frequently is, yeah, it's mind-boggling. I cannot even imagine what it takes to line up for that every week or whatever. So, I want to thank you for joining us on Resilient today. It's been lovely chatting to you and getting some of your insight into this. And, we're going to stay in touch if we can. I'd love to learn more about the 200 stuff and what's coming up.
Yeah,
And probably be seeing you at one of the races in the not too distant future. So,
absolutely, Paul.
appreciate
Yeah.
it. Yeah, super.